Gerardo Interiano is Senior Vice President at a Pittsburgh company called Aurora. And this company is developing trucks that don't need human drivers. Gerardo, what are the advantages of these vehicles?
Yeah, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be here. So I work for Aurora. I've been with Aurora now for about 5 years, and we're a company that's headquartered here in Pittsburgh. And this is truly a homegrown technology. Our first product is going to be the Aurora Driver, right? So the Aurora Driver is what's going to power these vehicles. And, from our perspective, this is what's going to make our roads safer. Every year in the United States, we lose over 40,000 people. And we believe that this technology is truly going to save people's lives. Not only are there the safety benefits of it, but there's also the efficiency and the logistics benefits of it. We can deliver goods faster than a traditional driver can today because we don't have the same hours of service limitations. The Aurora Driver doesn't get tired. It doesn't get distracted. It doesn't text and drive. And so many of the concerns that folks have when they're on the road today, we're able to significantly reduce and in some cases completely eliminate, right? Like you don't have to worry about the Aurora Driver getting distracted on the road. And we believe that that's what's going to make the roads safer for drivers today, and that we'll be able to more efficiently move goods throughout the country.
A minute ago, you said the technology is homegrown. Why do you say that? Is it connected with Pittsburgh?
Oh, absolutely. Two of our founders are graduates of Carnegie Mellon University, and they've been here. We've been here since the very beginning. We were founded in 2017, and we've always had a really strong presence here in Pittsburgh. In fact, our headquarters today are here in Pittsburgh. We have over 700 employees that call Pittsburgh home. And so it's certainly not an understatement to say that this is a homegrown technology. We're very proud to be a part of this community. We're very proud to be working with PennDOT, with the legislature, to make sure that we can deploy and roll out this technology that is going to have a huge impact in our communities safely and broadly.
So Gerardo, let's establish some context for this discussion about how much freight is moved by traditional 18-wheelers in this country. How reliant are we on this mode of transportation?
The reality is, if you were to look around your room today, and if your viewers were to look, in their own home, there is nothing in that home that did not at one point be moved on freight. Right. And so we are truly dependent on freight. And if you think about just a few years ago to the beginning of the pandemic, right, in many ways, our economy was slowed down because we couldn't move goods throughout the country. And so we believe that this technology is going to be able to more efficiently and more quickly deliver goods, right? If you think about something that has to be moved from one side of the country to another, it can normally take 3 days. And that's because of the hours of service limitations. So drivers today are only able to drive about 11 hours on the road before they have to rest. Right. And so if it takes 24 hours to move something, it ends up taking 3 days because of the way that you have to break that up. But with our technology, we can truly get it from point A to point B in 24 hours. So if you think about what that means for dairy farmers, for example, here in Pennsylvania, it means that we give them access to markets that maybe they can't access today. Right. It also means that their product will have a longer shelf life, and we can get it to its final delivery faster than it would normally arrive today.
Is the truck driver in 2024 making longer hauls than he used to? I imagine that's one of the bigger challenges you're facing here. And you already touched on the possibility of sleep deprivation among truck drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think drivers today, that we're dependent on them. It's an incredibly important job for our economy. And our belief is if you're a truck driver today, you'll be able to retire as a truck driver. Right? We believe that our technology is going to complement the workforce that exists today, but we're also thinking about how do we create the jobs of the 21st century, right? So we talk about we are creating the mechanics of the 21st century and thinking about how do we train this next generation that's going to be helping to power and service all of these vehicles that we'll be deploying in the years to come.
Gerardo, tell us about the basic technology that makes these driverless trucks work. I have a hunch it's related to the technology that's in my everyday streetcar that has a radar system so I don't bump into the guy in front of me.
Yeah, exactly. So our product is called the Aurora Driver. So the Aurora Driver is the hardware, the software, and the services that will power these vehicles, right? So we have partnerships with PACCAR and Volvo Trucks. Together, they make about 50% of the trucks that are on the road today. And you can imagine a world where our technology is embedded in their vehicles. We work very closely with them to do that. And on the hardware side, it is the radar, the cameras, but it's also LiDAR. right? LiDAR is what helps us to see at a longer distance. It's what helps us to get to highway speeds. And what that means is that we can create the world that's around us at any one point in time. And then we have a computer that's inside the system that's making all those decisions on the truck. So we make sure that we are doing this in as safe as possible of a way. We have all sorts of lessons that we've learned from other industries like rail and nuclear, who are truly safety dependent. And we're working closely with our safety team that both has an external safety advisory board that is helping us, but we also believe we have a first-in-class safety team that's helping us to deploy this technology safely.
So you have radar, as you mentioned, that I understand, but you also mentioned LiDAR, LIDAR, I believe. What's the difference now?
So LiDAR basically creates the world using light, right? So if you think about, we all know the speed of light. And so it goes from one point to another and it returns back into our system. Mm-hmm. And so you have 600,000 points of light that are being shot from our mid-range and short-range LiDAR. And that is creating the world around it. We also have a proprietary LiDAR that we've built that's called First Light. And First Light allows us to look at further distances and determine, for example, the velocity and the direction of an object. So when you're thinking about driving at highway speeds, right, if you see an object way up ahead, mm-hmm. you want to know, is that object coming towards me, away from me, and at what velocity? And then our system is able to make a decision. So for example, we've seen jaywalkers on the road on a highway, and we want to be able to determine, okay, that is a human that is going to be crossing the road, so that our vehicle can slow down and make a safer decision that sometimes humans can't see, right? Whether it's because of rain that is out there or because we're looking at so many different things. One of the advantages of the Aurora driver is that we have a nearly 360-degree view. Right. So we can always be looking around the truck to be able to understand what is the world around us happening. And it's all of those sensors working together that give us those inputs to be able to do this safely.
So it sounds like the technology of LiDAR can be superior to humans as far as anticipating problems are concerned.
It can just see further ahead, right? So it can see and it can see 360. It can see,
and it does have to make a decision based on what it's seeing.
Absolutely. So that's what the computer is taking, is all of those different inputs, and they're complementary, right? Like a camera complements radar, which complements LiDAR. And so bringing all of those components together is what we believe makes our technology safe.
So there is a lot of data points coming in. I mean, of course, to anyone who's driven a car, and a human knows, especially when they're downtown in an urban setting, there's a lot of things going on within your limited point of view. So the computer has a lot to do. Can it handle all these different demands at the same time?
Absolutely. And those are all the different capabilities that we've been building into the system. So one of the other things that we do from a safety perspective is we've invested a lot into simulation, right? So before we ever put our vehicle on the road to try to do something, we will simulate it in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of miles, right? Simulation to be able to train the system and to have the system understand. We also use our test tracks. For example, here in Pittsburgh, in the Hazelwood area, we have a test track where we will be able to test different things. And, how will the truck react, for example, if there's a tire blowout or if there's something on the road? And we do all of that before we ever go put and test those capabilities on the road to make sure that they're safe. Right. But all of those different components, all of those different scenarios that I think folks think about, we certainly try to teach and train the system to do it before we even put it on a public road.
I mean, it seems that there would be almost innumerable situations that a truck or vehicle can get itself into. There's a lot for you to anticipate. And I want to hear more about your test track. How big is that? Is it an oval? Is it a straight track? Try to tell me.
Yeah, so it's neither, right? So it basically it simulates what a road or what a highway would look like. So there's there's street lights there, so we can learn, for example, how do you drive on the access roads, right? Like, it's not only going to be highway driving. We still have to learn what to do at a stop sign. We still have to learn what to do with a stoplight. There's other vehicles that are on the road at it as well. So we try to simulate many of these real life scenarios. And in fact, we take a lot of the information from our regulators, right? We have NHTSA on the federal government, which is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. We work with PennDOT, and we try to get as much information as we can for them to understand, okay, what are the leading causes of accidents? Why is it that people get into accidents? And then make sure that our system is trained on all those scenarios to avoid them in the future.
It sounds like redundancy would be desirable in a situation like this. Have you taken that into account?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there is redundancy to every single system, right? There are redundancy when it comes to the hardware, the computers, down to the steering and braking. We want to make sure that the system is redundant and that it is all built into the system. I think one of the differences between the different levels of autonomy, for example, is you have level 2, right, which is a really good driver assist system. You mentioned earlier that many of our vehicles today have some of this technology, and you're absolutely right. But the difference between what's available today is that the human is the redundant system, right? So if something goes wrong in your vehicle today, the expectation is that the human will take over, right? We are developing a level 4 system. And so the expectation in our case is that if something goes wrong in the system, the redundancy is built into the truck to make sure that it is pulled over into a safe condition, because there will not be a human there to take over.
Do the elements interfere with your vehicles figuring out where they are in relation to other vehicles, rain or snow?
No, I mean, it's trying to take all of those inputs into the system, and it's trying to make sure that it understands, where are the other vehicles in relation, not just in front of us, right? I think that's often one of the limitations that we have as humans is we're so focused on what's in front of us or maybe immediately to the side of us that we lose track of what's around us. But with our technology, like I said earlier, it's 360, so we're able to see everything that's around us, and whether it's a vehicle or a motorcycle or a pedestrian that's on the road, we're able to identify them. So, for example, we worked with Bike PGH in the past, which is a great nonprofit here in Austin, to better understand how do bicyclists interact with vehicles and with them to gather that data so that we can better train the system to be able to do that as well.
Now, how big does an obstacle have to be in order for your system to sense it and react to it? Let's say a ball rolls in front of your truck and that ball is maybe a foot across.
Yeah, I'm not sure how big the object has to be in it, but at the end of the day, right, like our vehicle just has to identify that there is an object that is there. Like we still, I guess, code vulnerable road users. So, for example, a bicyclist or motorcycle or pedestrian, they will take higher priority. But for example, if a truck in front of us were to drop a box or something were to fall out of it, our system has to recognize that an item has fallen out of it and try to do something safe, right? So whether that is slow down, if it has the room to be able to slow down, or change lanes. But our vehicle is able to identify those things and determine, well, is this object moving or not moving, or is this object stationary and I just need to change lanes that go around it?
Now, I understand your driverless trucks are actually on the public roads, not in Pennsylvania, but in Texas. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's correct. So a lot of the freight that enters the United States actually comes up through Texas, right? So there's a massive amount of freight that is moved there in the state. So we've been operating there now for several years. And we have trucks that are operating from Dallas to Houston and from Fort Worth to El Paso. Today, there is a safety operator inside, our vehicle operator in the vehicles at all times. So we have not pulled the driver out of the vehicles. But we've been testing there and moving freight for our customers already now for months, and excited to be able to make that progress there.
Well, what's been learned so far from the public roads in Texas? And I'm sure there must be some situations that you didn't anticipate on your test track in Pennsylvania.
No, absolutely. In fact, we have a pedestrian that likes to walk his dog on the highway. And so we have seen a scenario where there's a human walking a dog in the opposite direction on the highway. And we've had to learn how to navigate that, right? We've had to learn those different scenarios. We also work really closely with law enforcement and with local communities. So we partnered with local law enforcement and with the State Highway Patrol, or the Department of Public Service in Texas, or public safety, I'm sorry, to work with them and understand how is it that law enforcement is going to interact with our vehicles? What are the things that they need? But also make sure that we're training our vehicles to understand, what is it that they need to do when it comes to working with law enforcement and with first responders, and creating those partnerships that will be able to help us scale this product across the country.
As far as your history in Texas is concerned, any incidents, any crashes?
No, I mean, we've had some incidences that have not been our fault, nothing that has been the fault of the Aurora driver. But for example, we've hit a shovel on the road, right? We've hit, I think a piece of tire shred hit us that came off of another vehicle. Our system recognizes those things. And so in those cases, we will pull over to the side of the road. We'll make sure that the system is okay. And then either our driver will continue to drive in manual, or we will re-engage in autonomy if there was no damage to the system.
So I'm trying to visualize what the driver is doing exactly. They're sitting behind the wheel and overseeing the automated system is what I'm picturing. Am I right?
That's correct. So up until very recently, we actually had two vehicle operators on the road. You had one behind the wheel that was making sure that the system was doing what we would expect the system to do. But then you had another vehicle operator also on the right-hand side who was watching the screen and making sure that what we as humans see on the road, the system was also recognizing and just validating that all of those systems that we have put in place are working the way that they're supposed to. Today we have some vehicles that only have a single vehicle operator and some that still have two, because we're still trying to learn and validate all those things. But in those cases, the vehicle operator that is in the vehicle is doing exactly that. It's making sure that the system is operating the way that we intend it to.
And another scenario that occurs to me that maybe hasn't been tested here in Pennsylvania, considering the real world in Texas and interacting with other human beings, how well are your vehicles reacting to other drivers' dangerous behavior?
I think we're able to see that further ahead. So, for example, we have several instances in Texas where a vehicle will run a red light, right? And so our vehicle was at the red light. Our light changed to green, but it noticed that there was a vehicle coming on the other lane that was at a high speed, and our vehicle calculated that at that speed and at that velocity that vehicle was moving, it was more than likely going to run that red light. So rather than go when we got the green light, our vehicle decided to just stop and wait, and it let that vehicle run the red light without causing what could have been a major accident.
Now, we know that large, heavy vehicles can pose more of a hazard to smaller vehicles on the road. So what assurance can you give to human drivers that one day when these trucks are next to them and there's no one behind the wheel, that they're safe?
Yeah, and I think safety has to be the first thing that we think about. It has to be the first thing that our customers care about, that our partners care about. And so from a safety perspective, there is nothing that is more important to us as a company than to be able to deploy a safe vehicle on the roads today. So not only do we have safety processes that we have in place at the company, we've also had a third party audit our safety management system to make sure that we are meeting the standards, and that we're working with the Automated Vehicle Safety Consortium and with different trade associations and standard making bodies across the country to ensure that our product is safe. Right? Like if at the end of the day, if we cannot convince our partners in government and our customers and our partner and our commercial partners that we are developing a safe product, then we're not going to be able to deploy a safe product, right? We're not going to be able to continue to operate if we don't have those partnerships in place. So from our perspective, safety has to be the most important thing for everything that we do, because we believe that is the true value proposition of the product that we're deploying.
Now, as you know, Gerardo, often it takes time for the law to catch up with technology. And WESA Radio reported this observation about Aurora. With almost no federal regulation, it's up to the companies to determine when these vehicles are safe. Sounds like there's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders here.
There is, but we also work very closely with government, right? Like I think there's a misconception that this is the wild, wild west, right? And it truly is not. I mean, commercial vehicles are actually very heavily regulated at the federal level by NHTSA and the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. So we work with them, and also at the state level, we have a very close relationship with PennDOT. In fact, I sit on the governor's highly automated vehicle advisory committee, which works with all of these different agencies. It works with the state police and all these different organizations to make sure that we are deploying this technology safely. And right now, we're actually still working with PennDOT to create the guidance that's going to be deployed, or that's going to be launched to be able to deploy these vehicles safely. So we do have a very close relationship with government. There is different levels of government regulate different components of the vehicle, right? So at the federal level, we work with them on what is the safety performance of the vehicle. But then we have to work with the state to figure out, okay, well, how do we get this vehicle on the roads? So we do work with all levels of government to make sure that those partnerships are there to do this safely.
Let's take a step back and talk some more about Aurora. Where do you get employees for a pioneering field like this?
Yeah, so we get them from all over the place, right? Like we're excited to be hiring many folks here in the Pittsburgh area and from across Western Pennsylvania. But at the same time, we have offices all over the country. We have a large presence, as we've talked about, in Texas and California, Seattle, right outside of Denver, and Bozeman, Montana is where a lot of our LiDAR work is done. So not only are we hiring engineers that are working on this, but we're also working with technical colleges to be able to think through it, figure out, who are the mechanics of the 21st century that are going to be helping us to maintain and operate these systems, right? We have terminals in Texas that are helping us with dispatching and remote assist specialists and command center specialists. So we are looking to hire folks who have a wide variety of skill sets, but we're also working with educational institutions and government to think about the curriculum that is necessary for these institutions to prepare folks so that we can hire them in the next 2, 3, 4 years as they continue to graduate from these programs.
How much cooperation does Aurora have with vehicle manufacturers?
We're very much integrated with them, right? Like I think that's part of the difference for us. Like we believe that we have to have those partnerships in place. So PACCAR and Volvo are the two OEMs that we work with on the trucking side that are the ones manufacturing the trucks. So if you think about PACCAR, they make Peterbilt and Kenworth trucks. Volvo makes Volvo and Mack trucks, and we have a very close partnership with them working to embed our technology in their vehicles. You can imagine a world where, for example, FedEx, who's one of our customers, will one day buy a truck from Volvo or PACCAR that is powered by the Aurora driver. But that integration between us and our manufacturers is key to our success as well.
Now, Gerardo, we talked about these vehicles being on the road in Texas with a human behind the wheel overseeing the automated system. So I know some of our viewers are wondering about what's the future for the driverless truck in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, we're continuing to develop different capabilities and continuing to expand. So, for example, just recently we announced that we were going to be expanding from Fort Worth to go all the way to Phoenix. And so eventually we'll be able to come here and make it to Pennsylvania, but we still continue to do testing and work here in the state, right? That is why it's important for us to work with PennDOT to have these guidelines in place so that we will be able to scale and to continue to deploy this technology, because we want to make sure that this is a technology that is deployed as broadly as we can across the United States and eventually across the rest of the world to be able to deliver those benefits. Aurora's mission is to deliver the benefits of self-driving technology safely, quickly, and in this case, broadly as well, right? And so that broadly component is to make sure that we can deliver that here in Pennsylvania and across the rest of the country.
If you wanted to put a driverless truck on the road in Pennsylvania tomorrow, would the law let you do it?
No, not yet. So the legislature passed a law that directed PennDOT to work on that guidance, and that guidance is what we are working with PennDOT right now that will then be allow for us to be able to do so.
Tell me more about your work with PennDOT. It seems like you would have to maintain a fairly constant connection with them in order to develop your vehicle and see that it does have a future in other states.
Absolutely. I mean, we have a very transparent relationship and a very close relationship with PennDOT. We want to make sure that they understand exactly what we are doing here in the state, that there are no surprises. We want to be very transparent with them, because I think at the end of the day, what it comes down to, along with safety, is trust. Right? We want to make sure that our partners in government, and particularly a regulatory agency like PennDOT, trust us and that they understand the work that we are doing, and that we are able to continue to further show the public that Aurora is not doing this just on its own, but that we're doing it in partnership with other agencies like PennDOT.
Now, if your trucks do come to Pennsylvania someday, I know our viewers are thinking about the difference in climate. Of course, Texas is mild, and Pennsylvania, the roads are often going to have snow and ice on them. So that sounds like yet another facet of development, maybe another challenge for your technology.
Correct. And those are all the different capabilities that we continue to develop. But for example, we've talked about the Pittsburgh left, right? And how do we make sure that our vehicles understand exactly what's happening? And those are all of the different components. Not only do we do trucking, but we also do some work on passenger mobility. And we think that that's transferable, right? Like what we learn on the streets today will benefit our trucks, and what our trucks learn on highway speeds also benefits passenger mobility.
Now, the Aurora company was founded in 2017, so still a relatively new company. And I'm thinking that your research is growing by leaps and bounds, probably pretty rapidly. So how does the situation look in 2024 compared to when the company started in 2017?
No, we've absolutely made a lot of progress, right? Like not just commercially, but also with the technology. We've developed these unbelievable partnerships, and we've hired. I guess we've brought on these great customers, and we continue to roll out these capabilities, right? Like that is the key. As we continue to deploy this technology, is making sure that we think about all those scenarios and that we start to validate the system, that the system is doing exactly what we intended to do. But the progress that we've been able to make from our founding to today has truly been remarkable, and we're excited to be part of that story and part of the history of what Pittsburgh has been able to achieve, right? I think that's one of the things that excites us is Pittsburgh has really been at the center of innovation throughout our history. And I think that this is the next phase of what Pittsburgh is going to be able to write as part of the story of transportation and automation.
We have about 1 minute left, Gerardo. So if you can, give some reassurance to drivers who are used to a traditional driving situation and not looking over to a truck and not seeing somebody behind the wheel, though that prospect is possible. Tell them, reassure them about the safety that's built into your technology.
No, absolutely. And again, what I would focus on is if you think about human drivers today, we all get distracted, right? Whether we have children in the back of our seats, or we happen to glance at our phone, or we have, we can't see as well when it's raining or when it's foggy, or we don't have 360-degree vision. All of those things are embedded into our system, and there is absolutely nothing that is more important to us than the safety of our system, right? And that is key to everything. It's key to what we as employees all think about. Day in, day out, and we want to make sure that we deliver a product that is safe and that we believe is going to be transformational for us and for our economy.
And last question, Gerardo, why do you find this kind of work rewarding personally?
Personally, because there's a mission assigned to it. Like, we are truly mission aligned, and we believe that this is something that's going to transform how we live and how we operate. And at the end of the day, I think most of us have been touched by somebody that's been affected by a vehicle accident, or somebody that's passed away in a vehicle accident. If we can save one of those lives and eventually not have a family receive that phone call, that is truly transformational, and I look forward to that day.
Gerardo Interiano is Senior Vice President at a company in Pittsburgh called Aurora. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you for having us. Appreciate it.